Hey
Hello.
everybody, welcome back to Bankast, the greatest Bleach-themed podcast, and I actually don't know how many Bleach-themed podcasts there are right now. James, do you know any other Bleach-themed
Probably not
podcasts?
that many, mate, to be honest.
I
Probably
was
one or two,
really,
but
like, I'll be honest with you, like, the first episode of this, it had, like, over 100K views, and I'm like, great, it's back, and it's like every one has been consistently around, like, 50K, honestly.
there'll always be that initial hype, and then it will always dwindle. And I also think the amount of people getting into Bleach as well has extremely inflated the community and maybe viewers as well. So there's a lot more views to share around. So that's my theory of it anyway. But
I'm really
uh,
hoping it doesn't just become like this really big and hyped seasonal anime and people watch
mhm.
it and talk about it and meme about it for like the first few episodes and then it just kind of gets forgotten. But this is Bleach we're talking about, so it has the pedigree of everything that's come before.
It seemed to be sustainable thus far, from what I can see.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
but again,
anyway,
it depends on how they do the cause anyway. So.
yeah. So this is the first time I have a guest on, so forgive me for any technical issues that might glitch out. This is popular Bleach YouTuber Jaymes Hanson.
I thought you were talking about yourself for a minute there,
No!
mate. You were always the number one guy.
So back in the day, I mean, it was me and James, Ace. I don't think Tomo made videos back in the day, did he? Like during
It
the
was
reviews, or did he just get
yes,
started doing
but
that?
on a smaller amount, and then there was Shinigami X, and
Uh,
then there was
Other
like King
people?
of Light. There's like King of Lightning
Oh
and
yeah,
that,
King
but
of
they did
Lightning, of
like
course, he did stuff
they
as
did
well.
like other series as well. So it's like if you're talking about specifically Bleach, then there
Right.
was not that many.
There wasn't a lot of people because I was dedicated. I mean, this was the anchor for my channel for like 5 years. I talked about other stuff occasionally, but Bleach was the anchor. And now it's kind of One Piece is the anchor, which I've been trying to avoid that, trying to talk about other stuff. But it's sort of like YouTube prefers like one big thing per channel. It
Mhm.
seems like that's the thing.
Thank you to everyone that harassed Tekken to let me on the Boncast. There you go.
You
I
were the
did read
number
all
one. You were the number one request. I mean, I'm gonna have Ace on here. I'm gonna have a lot of other people on here, but like you were
good.
the
Yeah.
number one. Yeah.
No,
And
it was just I saw a lot of comments about it, and yeah, I just wanted to let everyone know that I appreciate them for it and not
yeah.
leave them hanging.
And
So
to be
yeah.
fair, I mean, beyond the comments, you were the first person I had in mind to have on first anyway. So, yeah. It's just that I'm very lazy, and so it's like the sixth episode in, we're finally getting into the collabs. But, like, here we are.
It
Anyway,
takes a minute to flow into it.
it does. It does. And I think the last few
Mhm.
episodes have kind of gotten my stride, and I know how this works now. So, anyway,
Mhm.
this will be Bleach, episode 6, Thousand Year Blood War Arc. This is. I believe Kubo came out and said this is his favorite episode so far, and I
Yeah,
could definitely see it.
back at Anime Expo, wasn't it? Which was a few months ago.
Yeah, I was
6
actually there. The
was
one
it?
I don't know if yeah,
How
Anime
was
Expo.
it?
I actually didn't get a chance to go into the Bleach panel, but I
Mhm.
tried to, and it was just too filled up. We got there like 2 hours before, me and Too Spooky, and
Ooh.
we couldn't get in. So yeah,
Yeah,
lines
it
were
did look
crazy.
busy.
But
It did look busy.
was this your favorite episode so far? Because I'm pretty sure this was mine as well.
Oh
Like
man, like if I had to rank it, it's like 6, 1, 2, and then 5, 4, 3.
wow,
So
you already have
yeah.
you have it ready to go then. You have it all
Yeah,
organized.
I did think about it before coming on here, but yeah, it's definitely one I've been anticipating. I'm very much anticipating. Um, do I spoilers?
Oh, I
In a
do
few
spoilers
episodes.
on Boncast all
Uh,
the time.
okay, so yeah, so Kenpachi versus Hana, I'm excited for that one.
Mhm.
So that's one that I'm eyeing up. I'm extremely excited to see how next episode's gonna go because I want to see how consistent it's gonna be from here on out. Because yeah, this episode was great, and there is a worry, in a sense of like hopefully they didn't put all the eggs in one basket, as I think everyone
I
else is
don't think
also
they
thinking about.
did. I mean, like,
No, of course
this
not,
is the
but.
early part of the arc, and I mean, this is a great way to really, like, Yamamoto's Bankai is a great way to
Mhm.
start that off, just from a storytelling perspective of like, okay, this is where shit's really hitting the fan, and this is an invasion unlike all the others. But
Absolutely. Mm,
before we even get into the actual like episode though, I'm gonna go back to the beginning here because we actually have an added scene with Uryu
we
starting the
do.
episode off where
We do.
he is reading that diary, the journal that Soken left him, left Ryukin. It's odd that he's reading it underneath a bridge next to water. I felt like that's a strange place for him to read it, but like okay. We see in there a couple of things. We see, first and foremost, that the Vondenreich, I guess, back in the day was actually called the Leaked Reich.
Hmm.
Which is I guess that makes sense. The right of light, I guess, would make sense. Like that's the original
Hmm.
name of it. We also see an image of Yamamoto in the journal, washed in flames, and a bunch of people are scared. And this is like a discrepancy where the battle. We'll see this later in a flashback. The battle with the Stern Ritter and the Shinigami took place 1,000 years ago, but the Quincy extermination was 200 years ago.
Hmm.
So, what are your thoughts on that? That's actually being like expanded upon a little bit.
So, in regards to the Uryu thing, there was like a friend of mine that was talking about like the cinematography of that shot of the under the bridge thing, about like the passing water and being under the bridge. And if you notice, maybe not in that shot that we're talking about specifically, but there is another shot where we do get Uryu again, and he's in the middle of the bridge where there's like a sky on the left side and sky on the right,
Ooh.
where you could say, oh, well, he hasn't decided which side he's going to go on to. So it's like kind of in the middle, like kind of deciding of where he should be.
the,
And
the kind of
maybe
like
that's a
dichotomy
reach.
of that. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, maybe that's a reach. Maybe that was, purposely done by the director. So in regards to that, if that's my headcanon now, and I like it. So
I feel like that probably was intentional just because
Mm,
like people forget this, but in the manga there is like none of Uryu like build up for him. Like he's basically he says he
mhm.
doesn't want to go to Hueco with Ichigo, and then we don't get anything with him until like he's revealed to be a member of the Vandenreich. That's it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and
So
I was going to bring that up to you as well and say, like, do you like the fact that they're adding all this extra content with Uryu and this
oh,
conflict?
I'm
Because
loving
he
it
didn't. Mm,
because it's actually like what Uryu would do. He wouldn't just be sitting on his hands the entire time. He'd be researching this. The biggest thing is like him going to Ryukin and being like, "Hey, Dad, we're supposed to be the only Quincy's left in existence. How are there?
yeah,
How is there an entire army? Like, what's going on here?"
and that's what from the chapters back in the day, for an arc that was about the Quincy's, we really didn't really get much of Uryu at all. It was like,
No,
okay, and then Uryu did what he did, and we're like,
so I
well
feel
then.
like going into this, they had to add like, okay, well, you gotta add some extra scenes with Uryu here. Like, you have to, and that's not the only added scene in the episode. This isn't even the most impressive one, but
Yeah, it
that will
isn't.
come at
No.
the end. Um,
Anytime I see Hiromitsu on the staff list, and I always know there's going to be original content because
mhm.
they are a person that directs light novels and visual novels into anime. So you have Taguchi, who's done manga before, so he's got experience with that, and then you have someone that puts words into an animated form or an animated script, which
Hmm.
is great for Kubo, who can write down some notes or jot down some sceneries and then give it over.
Yeah, that's
I
the
did.
impression I get. I,
Mhm.
I don't think it's like Kubo personally. Well, the scene with Aizen and Yuha, that might have been personally written by him
It was
entirely.
actually,
I
yeah,
was
because a
gonna say it
script
would have
was
had
made.
to have been, yeah.
Yeah, a script apparently, I have to double check this, but apparently a script was made, and Kubo did actually, in fact, rewrite the whole thing. So that was a Kubo written.
That's really important. But for
Yeah.
the stuff with
Mm.
Uryu, I feel like they probably just told him like, "Hey,
Oh,
have
absolutely. Yeah.
Uryu doing some stuff showcasing where he's going to go with like to the Vandenreich or to the the
Mhm.
side of Ichigo." And maybe they threw it at Oda, not Oda. I'm going to make that mistake a lot. Threw it at Kubo and be like, "Hey, is this good? Is this okay?" And he was just probably like, "Yeah, that's fine." Like so the scene under the
Yeah,
bridge with
of
him
course.
reading the
Yeah.
diary and all that, like that makes sense. Um
Yeah,
s-
it could be a note, for example, that just says give more emphasis on Uryu's struggles. It could be as
mhm.
simple as that, and it's Hiromitsu's job to execute that correctly.
Yeah,
Send it over. Kubo's like, yeah, this is all right, and then
and there's
send it back.
another scene with him later on in the episode where he has a flashback where it'll be a little bit more apparent, but it
Hmm.
is like a question like, okay, do I side with Ichigo, who's an ally with the Soul Society who exterminated my entire race pretty much, or do I go over with my race, with the Quincy's, and fight for them? You know?
Mm.
Like it like in the manga it seems like it comes out of nowhere. Here it's at least expanding upon it like, okay, Uryu does kind of have a choice here and he can't just make a quick decision. He has to like think about this. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So anyway,
Absolutely.
now we're getting into the meat of it, and we have Yamamoto crashing down in front of Yuha. I will refer to him as Yuha throughout this entire video.
On by me.
We all know the situation
Yeah.
here. You
You
know,
are Yuha Baha,
it's Yuha Bahak,
your way.
whichever.
Yeah.
Bleach number 6, The Fire. By the
'Cause
way,
it was
just
fire.
Huh?
It
Oh,
was.
he was
'Cause it
fired,
was
of
fire. It
course.
was very fire.
By the way, something that we start off with this, because with Bankast, I really do try to like, I look through the whole, I reread the manga as well as watch the episode and try to point out every little scene that's different. And I believe they added in a shot of, because Yuha had Kenpachi by his throat. They actually add in a shot of Yamamoto just shunpoing right past Yuha, grabbing Kenpachi and like putting him down.
Yeah, that was great.
I like that scene, although it is kind of weird because he just sets him like 10 feet away from Yuha, and this massive battle's about to happen. So I'm assuming Kenpachi's fine. He's okay. He's fine.
Yeah, I was thinking, and I don't know why, but I was just watching it thinking, like all the buildings, like in the society. I was like, what about if there's people hiding in there, like, just trying to escape all the conflict? All the weak sorry-pers that like we ain't getting involved in this, and then they've just been roasted.
They've just been roasted alive.
essentially.
I mean, like, it's pretty brutal. Like, in one of the data books, it was mentioned there's around 3,000 standing members of the Gote 13. Like, there's 200 per squad or something like that. And in the manga, Akon is like, there's like 2,400 dead already. So there's only like a couple hundred of the foot soldiers left. They're going to be hiding in those buildings or something. Like,
Is that an early data book or one of the later ones?
So no, unfortunately, it is the first data book. It's Souls. So that was way back in the day. So it could have been changed definitely, but that was the number. Also, that doesn't include the stealth core or the keto core. So I mean, take it with a grain of salt, but that's what I've read.
You know what seems to be the safest place, unironically, is the maggots nest.
Yeah, honestly, I mean, it's a.
If you think about it.
Yeah, if you think about it,
it's there right now.
It's outside. It might even be outside the Seirete, right? It's like in the Rokongai, isn't it? Like.
Yeah, it's pretty safe there. I wouldn't mind being there right now.
But you're the Gote 13. You got to fight and to defend the Soul Society. That's your whole job. So Yamamoto appears. He's like, "I've come to put an end to your life." And we cut over to see Shunsui fighting against Robert really quickly. And I love this shot because it's basically he cuts Robert.
My dad can beat up your dad.
Yeah, basically, kind of. It's just like, Shunsui's so excited because he's like, okay, Yamamoto, our boss, is fighting now. And Robert's just like, yeah, well, your boss will lose to our boss. And you're not the only one that gets excited from their boss fighting. So we're going to have a boost of morale as well. To which immediately a giant pillar of fire just erupts from Yamamoto. He nukes essentially the 3 Stern Ritter that jump him, as note Basby and Najakoop. They all show up. They all get burnt. And I love Nanana's name. I usually just devolve into the Batman theme, like na Batman. Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, the giant pillar of fire as Yamamoto roasts those 3 Stern Ritters. He basically does the same thing he did with the Trace Bestia back in. Well, actually, no, because later it's revealed that the only reason they survived is because Basby used his ability to offset the fire. Because Yamamoto was really pissed in that scene. You know what I mean?
As expected.
As
you
expected.
just got jumped, to be honest with you.
Yeah, just got jumped.
Uncalled for.
Shunsui says, your standard conventions, they don't apply to old man Yama, so, he's basically very confident. We have Toshiro, Soifone, everybody, Sajin, of course, like Yamamoto is going to win this. So, this is an extended shot where he immediately reaches over. He's still in his Shikai. It's not in his Bankai yet. He swings, he hits Yuha in the arm, he causes him to bleed a bit. But they do add a lot more shots where they're running around the Seirete, continuing the fight, which is also intercut with scenes from their fight 1,000 years ago, which is seamlessly cut in, and that's like a beautiful thing that they did there.
Yeah. So in regards to that, I do want to say, and I don't know if you felt the same way, maybe it's just a me thing, but there was a weird happiness in me when I noticed Komamura smiling.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I never see him smile at all, so it was just nice to see this like cocky Komamura for once.
He's a very stern kind of dog, kind of wolf.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And a lot of his men just died, but Yamamoto's the one that saved his life. He has a lot to thank for him. And to just feel Yamamoto's Ryatsu, like his Ryatsu has to be like, it's like a giant like bonfire that everybody can feel throughout the entire Seirete, which is it makes the Quincy's kind of like, maybe wet themselves a little bit, and it makes the Shinigami just like invigorated, like ready to fight, you know what I mean? So I feel like that's that there.
In regards to the flash dab, I thought it was amazing because you can see it as one or two ways. If you're an anime only, or if you're a manga reader, you can see it as the flash dab was so fast that it just burst into flames.
Oh, that too.
Or
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, or the fact that he was saving Kenpachi as well. And I think throughout the majority of this episode, I felt like a lot of theme was set on um sentimental,
Oh, yeah.
sentimental. Yeah,
Absolutely.
and I feel like the fact that Yamamoto did that for Kenpachi was very sentimental, whereas Yamamoto from 1,000 years ago probably wouldn't have
No,
done that,
Yamamoto from a
to be
thousand years
honest.
ago was definitely more
So
brutal.
so maybe it's already showing, and again, like this is not something that I'm saying happens, but in my mind, I question if this is something that is potentially showing a Yamamoto weakness over 1,000 years ago. He bravads that nothing's changed, but
Mm.
maybe he's grown weaker. Maybe not only through his body, but also definitely his mind's gotten weaker.
Yeah,
So
like emotionally, he's become like more soft
yeah,
compared to where he was. Like he was this
absolutely.
very. I mean, it was mentioned later that the original iteration of the Gotei 13, they were eventually just like 13 thugs that operated,
Hmm.
around the Soul Society, and then they just became this unit that
Yeah.
Yamamoto headed up, and that was it.
Hey, next episode spoilers.
Next episode spoilers. Oh, we've already. I feel like I can't not spoil because I've already
It's
reviewed the
hard,
whole
right?
story and I've
Yeah.
read the whole manga, and that's like the whole point of this is talking about stuff
Hmm.
that they added in or stuff that hints at stuff later. So yeah, I
Exactly.
just
Yeah.
gave up
It
the whole
is hard.
spoiler idea later. Um, so Yamamoto, we see the shots of him fighting Yuha from the past intercut seamlessly with the fight that's happening right now. Yuha even says, you've grown old, Shigekune Yamamoto. Seeing you let your rage take over like that, though, does remind me of the past. And we see a shot of the past of, Genryusai cut to the future where we're at
So
right now.
cool.
Yeah. The fight, there's some really awesome animation there. There's a scene where they're on a roof, and like Yuha throws a bunch of like rubble at him, and Yamamoto just kind of screams, and then all the rubble just kind of ignites in flames or something. Like it's insane.
Yeah, the roof tiles being thrown at him. Like I've never been so gassed for roof tiles in all my life.
That
Like, yeah,
reminds
you
me of
throw 'em.
there was a moment in Naruto when Sarutobi, the third Hokage, fought against Orochimaru, and they added scenes in the anime where he uses
Mm.
like the tiles as like a jutsu to fight, and he lights him on fire, and that's a very similar scene. I thought I just had a flashback to
But
that.
that takes me back. I
Yep,
can't
yep,
remember, but it probably happened. But
it
yeah, I
does.
do remember it being a really cool fight. Most fights in Naruto were actually.
Oh
But
yeah, they were
anyway,
pretty good. I mean, early
yeah.
Naruto had. I mean, late Naruto
Yeah.
had some good stuff too. I'm not going to say it
Mm.
didn't, but the power scaling just went insane in that
Yeah.
story. It's like It's like okay, we're fighting with kunai knives and shuriken. We have to figure out how to use
Mhm.
our ninja tools, and then it's like literally demigods at the end of it, which isn't bad. It's just crazy.
When you came into this episode, how did you personally feel about the choreography of going from manga to anime? Do you think, like, did you initially think going into this episode that they were just going to do a one-to-one, like adaptation, or
I
what was your wants and
I
expectations
was
for
really
added fight
expecting
scenes?
some great choreography with this. It definitely did
Hmm.
not disappoint. The choreography definitely was up there, but I was also interested in just like how these scenes were gonna like move between each others, because in the manga it's like he goes east and then west and then south, and it's like okay, I want to see a little bit more of each of those
Hmm.
different forms of Zanka no Tachi, and exactly how he seamlessly transitions from each direction, I guess.
Hmm.
Probably the one with south was the most intense, and we'll get to that. But yeah, the choreography was absolutely incredible. There's even a shot right now I'm showing where, Yamamoto basically he appears right behind Yuha before he can even react, and he's just about to cut him. It's like
Yeah,
such a great shot.
from what I've heard, without getting anyone in trouble, is that m most of the storyboarding that Taguchi gave to animators was completely as basic as they came. And
Yeah,
usually what that means is you have creative liberty, go nuts.
yeah,
So I think, the absolute direction that they went with it was you can tell the passion,
yeah.
and it's been impressive.
It
There's
doesn't take
nothing more to
anything
say than
away
that.
from it. I mean, it adds a lot to it, if anything. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? It's just like, okay, like in the manga, it's fair. It's like Yamamoto attacks him once or twice and then immediately goes into Bankai. But here, it's like, no, let's have some Yamamoto. Like, let's show how strong he is and how pissed he is right now fighting against Yuha. And then finally, we
Mhm.
get to the point where Yuha draws his sword. Minor
Mhm.
caveat with that. We
Okay.
never find out the name of this sword in the manga, and that always bugged me. I don't know why. It's just I feel like Yuha, King of the Quincy's sword, I feel like should have had a name at some. Well, it does actually have a name, but from what we later find out, it might have gotten erased. So we'll see.
So yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I was about to say, thinking of that, maybe it doesn't.
Yeah, maybe it
For
doesn't anymore.
probably
I was wrong. I
reasons.
was
Maybe for
mistaken.
reasons.
Sorry.
You know.
But he draws his sword, and that's kind of like the signal where Yamamoto basically he has this amazing line where he says, "Your flesh, your blood, your sword, and your soul. I'm going to burn it all to ashes right here." So he wanted to wait till Yuha really got serious before he released his Bankai, to which he now does. I intend to crush you until there's nothing left. Bankai, Zanka no Tachi. This transition, this Bankai transformation,
So beautiful.
it's so quick, and yet it works. In the
I
manga,
pumped so much, man.
in the manga, he activates it, and then like the whole background just goes white
White,
because
yeah.
you know Kubo likes to have like the characters in the forefront and just the impact. But this shot, you see, like it's basically Yamamoto is the center of an explosion that just radiates after him, and then in less than a second, it just boom. It's just all the flames just all disappear, and everything's super white and just hot, and like you have the heat waves, which is stuff you can't get in the manga, but like the effect of like the temperature in the Seirete just shot up like 100 degrees in like less than a second.
Yeah.
You know what I
And
mean?
it was just the sound design was amazing too. The effects of the heat waves, as you said, and just like the reactions from the characters as well, was just telling of what he didn't even say the word yet.
No.
And everybody already knew instantly, which is, it was Ukitake, Unohana, and Kyoraku,
Yes.
which is fitting because they are the oldest captains. So they knew exactly what was kicking off. So it was a great display of just.
We
Just,
have the scene with this is I think a minor change from the manga. Pretty sure it wasn't in the manga. The scene at the 4th Squad barracks when we see Unohana and Isane there, we see the vase of water with a flower in it. Now we see that in the manga, but it's just kind of showing that the water is evaporating in the vase.
Yeah.
But here it actually has a change where it cracks. The heat cracks the vase, and then later the flower even ignites on fire, which is, I think, a really cool, subtle way of like showcasing just how hot it is. Now they're all Shinigami, so they're not like regular humans. I feel like if there was a normal human here, they would have died instantly from this. Because like, it's like 200-300 degrees all of a sudden, and that's Fahrenheit. I don't know what that is in Celsius, but whatever. It's hot. It's hot. Okay.
That's death levels. That's definitely heat stroke.
Yeah, it's definitely heat stroke immediately. But the Quincy's have blutes, and the Shinigami are just tougher. So we have Unohana, Ukitake, and Shunsui that are all like, Ukitake's like, oh, my throat's dry. Shunsui's like, my lip is cracked. And
Isana's like, oh, my skin's dry.
Yeah.
Oh, my moisture.
That was cute. That was a cute scene.
Shut up, Isana.
I love that scene because it's like, like 2,500 of our comrades are being slaughtered outside this barracks right now, and we later find out why they're not helping. Yamamoto gave explicit orders for Unohana and the 4th Company to stay in the barracks because if they get wiped out, no one's going to be there to help the survivors. But I just find it funny that Isane's just standing there like, oh my god, my skin is so dry, Captain. And she's like, oh, you sound so girly, Isane. I was like, yeah. There's a lot of dead corpses outside
Seriousness,
right now.
Isane. Seriousness. Come on, get your act together.
But whatever. So we also have a shot with Kang Do using Hyorin Maru, and it instantly begins to evaporate and melt. And Hitsugai is just kind of like, ha, you can't use Hyorin Maru anymore.
Silly guy. What did you think about the difference in hue changes when it comes to, Zenban Zakura or Hyorin Maru where it has the purple
So I got a lot of people made fun of me last episode for that. So I noticed the difference with oh wait, hold on. What was the other Bankai that was stolen? Hold on a moment. Oh, it was Chojuro Sasakibe's Bankai. When Driscoll went into Kokyo Gonryu Riku, it was like purple lightning, and that was very obvious. I actually didn't really notice the difference with Senbon Sakura because pink and purple are kind of similar. So I was like, why didn't Senbon Sakura change? And so many people were calling me colorblind. Like, it was clearly purple. I'm like, pink and purple are very similar. I'm sorry. And even here with Daiguren Hyorin Maru, I'm like, it is purple. Okay, I see it now. All right, yeah. But I like that the hue changed because, it fits that they're using a different, like the Quincy's are using it, so it would change.
Like it's tainted.
A little bit.
Which is a nice touch for it. So I'm interested to see what they do with the hollow pill. The
hollow pills are going to be a lot of fun too. Yeah. I wonder if that would make Jakuho Raikoben, and it turns into like a purple missile.
Nah, please, Red. Please, Red.
That would
Red
be
would look
interesting.
so cool.
That would look
I
amazing.
don't know why, but it would look cool.
I mean, purple is a cool color. I mean, the color effects in general in this season have been great, like the Ryatsu upgrades and just like Orihime's Shun Shun Rika and the shields. Like, it just has a better texture than it ever. Because, like, Orihime's shield in the original was just orange, pretty much. It's just orange light. Now it actually has texture and like a gradient to it, like a GIF. So there we go. Okay, now we actually see the sword, and Yamamoto announces it, Bankai Zanko no Tachi, and you just see this scorched cinder of a blade that's just smoldering like a fire that's about to go out. And Hashwalt is like, could that thing really be his Bankai? It looks so weak. And Yuha, I'm air quoting here, Yuha states that everything it cuts is burnt in an explosive flame. Don't get near it. This is, of course, referring to the way that he fought against it 1,000 years ago. And Yamamoto even mentions he holds the blade right up to his face, and there's this nice little red glow in his face. And he's like, oh, is it still the same as the last time you fought it?
Silly guy.
Oh, my God. So the fight continues, and this is a whole shot that was in the manga. It's added a little bit to it, though, where Yamamoto cuts Yuha's cape, and it cuts the cape, but nothing happens, and he's like, well,
the flames?
Where are the flames? Where did they go? And that gets Yuha kind of freaking out, like, wait a second, did his ability change? No, okay, his power is definitely fire. Like, that is 100% what Yamamoto's ability is, and Zanpakuto's do not change, so where are the flames? Then you just have a shot where the sword, and once again, it's just one of those things in the anime, it just works better, where the sword hits the ground, you see like just like a couple sparks.
Yeah,
and then,
it's just a little tap for me. It's just like, it's not even instant, it's just
boom!
bang.
The
It's
entire
like,
area around him just gets blown to smithereens. Yeah.
That's pretty big.
That's a lot of damage right there,
That's
right?
a lot of damage.
And too bad
I think
Kenpachi
next
was
time-
sitting down right there in that hole. So he wasn't. I'm just messing around. But, like, he could have been. He's in this battlefield right now.
Imagine he did that and it got straight to the Great Prison.
Yeah, and then now we
it's
can just
just
cut
like
right to that. We don't have to worry about skipping over anything.
Hi. You see all like the old Kenpachis? Hi.
There's a scene where, there's a shot where, like, Aizen's there just like, man, I should have maybe accepted Yuha's offer. I could have gotten out of here. And then, boom, Kenpachi just lands right next to him. Just like, huh, okay.
Oh, dear. It's all kicking off up there.
So he explains what this one is. This is Zanko no Tachi East. All of his abilities are based into the 4 cardinal directions. Kyoku Jitsujin. There we go. I got that. I know Japanese. It focuses all the fire, every flame that he's had, into the tip of his sword. Basically, I likened it to like a compressed nuclear weapon at this point. Like anything he touches just gets completely obliterated. And there's an added scene where he only does the shot once. This is what I mean, like in the manga, where he does the thing with East. He blows up a big portion of the battlefield, and that's it. He moves immediately to West. In this shot, there's a couple of extra scenes where Yuha's like, all right, I just have to avoid getting cut by him then. And he dodges an attack, and then Yamamoto does the same thing. He hits the ground, and another explosion occurs. So, I mean, some people could say this is filler, but no. It's like, it's adding to the fight a little bit, right?
Yeah, and I mean, like, it was like he was throwing like buildings. you half throwing buildings at Yama. But, okay, so yeah, it starts throwing buildings at Yama, and you can see just like the rock instantly melt into nothingness the moment it touches that blade as he like lunges towards Yuha too. And I liked you know, for some people that may have watched it once, you may not have like seen it, but there was some nice hand-to-hand choreography in there, like where Yuha puts his foot on Yamamoto to push him away. So it's things like that which, you know, you do appreciate, which feels a bit more fuller and feels a bit more.
You know
like,
what I also like about
realistic.
that is it implies maybe it doesn't say that he was using it, but maybe he was using Blute, the artery Blute, the other one that increases his physical strength because we don't really see a lot of Quincy's like bench pressing buildings and stuff, but they could do that quite easily with their powers. You know what I mean?
And it has already been introduced by Kisuke in episode like.
I think it was 2 episodes ago, but that was one thing that always annoyed me a little bit throughout the manga, where they use Blute Vein like a lot, and the other one is just kind of never referenced. So, but they you could also argue they always have it active because they're always like super strong, but still.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So, this is a point that I remember being confused by in the manga when Yuha swings his sword at Yamamoto and it breaks. And I don't know why, but I was always confused. Like, did Yamamoto use his sword to cut it, or just the fact that it's so hot it breaks the blade? And I'm pretty sure that's the case because as soon as after that he activates Zanko no Tachi West, and he has another badass line where he's just like, I'm just gonna burn you down until you are nothing but a horde of corpses. Ignites his entire
very
body.
relevant, kind of.
Huh?
Yeah. It's a bit relevant.
Yeah, a little bit relevant for what's
A
gonna
little bit
happen
relevant,
later.
yeah.
Yeah. So he's like, well, obviously if there's an east, there's gotta be a west. So he activates west, which is Zanjitsu Gokui. That's an easier one to say.
15 million degrees.
Celsius too. I don't know what that is in Fahrenheit.
It's pretty big.
It's pretty big. It's absurd to think of something that hot. I mean, once again, everybody has to understand, like, the Seirete is made out of like reishi. It's not like if like a ball of heat that was 15 million degrees Celsius just appeared in your backyard, that would like immediately that would kill everything within like 100-mile radius. It would rip a hole in the ozone instantly. You know what I mean? Like, yeah.
It's a pretty big deal.
It's a pretty big deal. And I love how Hashwolf is doing commentary to this in the background, basically. Which, by the way, I don't even know if his name has been stated yet in the anime. That was something we didn't find out Hashwolf's name until I think Ichigo
He will always
shows
be
up.
Hash Browns to me.
Hash Browns, I love that. I think I called him that at the very
Browns.
beginning.
Yeah.
He's about to be Hash Browns from the heat.
Wow. Yeah. It just goes to show a testament as well to a little bit of how strong Blue Vein is to a certain
absolutely.
degree. That he's able to maintain the body through 50 million.
It's mentioned by Yuha that he's using it. We actually see him, but like also, the fact that Hashwolf is there. And Hashwolf brings up a really important point here where he's just like, okay, there's fire everywhere. There is no way an absurd degree, like 15 million degrees Celsius, would appear as fire. So it's not even fire at this point. It's literally his Ryatsu spewing off of him in the form of flames. It's that powerful.
It's just that concentrated that it gives off the illusion. It's not an illusion per se, like Demon Slayer, but it's because I saw some people make that reference a little bit. But it is something that exists. It's not
tangible, and that's what broke Yuha's sword. Anything that comes even close to him is just completely incinerated at like an atomic level by this level of heat.
Because you got to also remember as well that this isn't the sun fire cloak at this point. This was still at the very concentrated edge of the tip.
Oh yeah.
So that heat surrounding his body in that moment, anything that comes even in proximity of that is just going to get obliterated.
Yeah, obliterated. And here it's just like he's like pumping the gas a little bit where the flames do erupt around the sword a little bit. And now we just have this image. Once again, we cut back to the past really quick where we see Yuha fighting. So the implication, I guess, is 1,000 years ago he used East and West, and that was the only ones he used because Yuha did not know that he could use South. But yeah, so just that alone was able, like, my God, I want to see this battle so bad. Like later on, like when we get the flashback with Basby and Hashwolf, like, yeah, but this alone was way better than, I'll take it.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't have to get it, to be honest with you. Like, I was expecting not to, but the fact that we got it was impressive. Granted, they could have skipped all the I guess they could have skipped all the extra stuff they threw in the episode and gave us more of the backstory from 1,000 years ago, but I think
there's more space for that later on.
Potentially, next episode's probably going to show some cool stuff.
No,
as well.
I mean even later on, like Basby and Hashwolf's backstory. I think there's.
Oh, that's a shout too. That's a shout, yeah.
Yeah, that's a while out, but that's like we learned a little bit about the past there, so we could do some stuff with that.
But I feel like what we got was enough.
It was enough.
I think everyone expected, especially in the manga days, everyone expected we're going to get this flashback. We're going to see like 2,000 Quincy's and 2,000, Sorrypas just clashing, right? It's going to be this big.
Like we'll see like Unohana, the original Kenpachi, and like Korinji was still there, like a member of the Zero Squad, all fighting together. Like that would have been so cool, right?
We were probably gonna, and bear in mind, Korinji wouldn't have even been introduced at this point, right? So it's like you're gonna have 3 characters that you would have really only given cared for, really. So
that's wrong, Jaymes. He was in the opening. The opening does spoil quite a bit for what's going to happen later.
Talking about the manga.
Talking about the manga, right?
Come on.
That's fair. Also, I wanted to bring something up here that's kind of like a meta thing. So this reminded me a lot that we're seeing the shots of like the fight in the present, but then the fights in the past. That
Mm-hmm.
reminded me a lot of Ryan of Retro Rhino's
Mm-hmm.
first episode of the Bleach anime, how he did that. And Ryan is an animator on this, guys. I don't know if anybody knew that. He's in the ending
Yep.
credits. He's there, you know.
Yeah, he
So
got
way to
he
go
got
for
a shot at
Ryan
that,
for
yeah.
getting that job because like it just is like perfect. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I did hit him up and gave him a congratulations on that. I don't know if he said anything publicly, but yeah, like
I
did a
retweeted the thing when I saw it, like because someone
oh
screenshotted the ending credits, and I retweeted
nice.
it. But I do need to,
Yeah,
I need to thank him, and also
yeah,
just
he's
said like congratulations.
he did a great shot. Again, I don't know if he published which shot it is, but he shot was really good and
I
really
actually don't
impressive.
know which one it was. Do you?
I don't know. I don't know if I should, because like I don't know if he wants to publicly do
That's
it.
fair.
But
That's fair. That's
yeah,
okay. That's okay.
yeah.
That's okay. That's
I'll tell
understandable.
you later. I'll tell
But
you
I'll
later.
message him. I'll hit him up later,
Yeah,
and maybe he can tell me, and then I can look into it
yeah.
there. And because yeah,
It's a great shot, and I was very impressed. So,
okay,
you know,
gotcha. But
yeah,
that's fair. That's fair.
yeah.
So so oh god, the scene where his feet melt, like the ground around his feet
His toes got a little bath.
turn into magma, and he just starts walking through it like he's the damn devil. Like he's just like everything's melting around him in this heat. I love that shot.
It was the sound effects for me, like the
Oh yeah,
squishiness of the like the stone. Oh, it was
the
great.
fire effects in general in this episode were
Yeah,
amazing.
it was the paintbrush. Like I know it's yeah. I guess the best way I could explain it is the paintbrush effect, and it was like it's beautiful because you had like a 3 color palette. You had the black, the yellow, and the orange. And it was just the way it was articulated was amazing, and you just can't appreciate the. I think it may have been the painter or the
Mhm.
color artist of the episode.
I mean,
They did
there's a fair amount of like, well, not a fair amount, but there's
CGI in the back,
CG
right?
used in this
Yeah.
episode, but used very, very well whenever they
Yes,
do
exactly. It
implement
was
it.
mostly used in background, but
Mhm.
like the way they composited it to really merge the two together was you
You can
couldn't compare
tell. I
that.
mean, this has been a
Mm.
labor of love for a very long time. They've been
Mhm.
working on this for a long time, and
6 months.
we get to see the fruits of it. It's
Mm.
incredible.
Yeah.
Um, so at this point, Yuha, he's freaking out. He's not really moving much at this point, and Yamamoto's like, I got to finish this now
Would
before
you?
all
Could
of
you move?
No, God no, God no. I'm just saying
Oh.
this might be a little. This should have been like one of the hints of like Yamamoto, because you have to understand the entire time up until this point, Yamamoto's been very solemn, very quiet ever since
Mhm.
Chojuro died, and so now though it's
He
like,
got absolutely talked down to by Mayuri.
yeah,
He
yeah.
was silent.
He was dejected. He was really dejected, and
Uh-huh.
now he's like flipped the script, and he's completely just encaptured in rage
Mhm.
right now. Like, I am finishing this as fast as possible, as I'm going to use my strongest moves,
Yeah,
and I think that's blinding him a little bit to the fact that Yuha's like
absolutely.
not really. He's fighting back, but not in the way that like he's not as strong as he should be. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like,
I
yeah.
think there's multiple perceptions you can go from it. You could say what you said right there, like blinded by emotion, blinded by rage, maybe even cockiness of
Mhm.
strength, saying that he isn't what he was 1,000 years ago, or it could be just a testament to just how strong Roy Lloyd is. So
Yeah, I mean, he's still a Quincy. He's still got blue
yeah.
vein, blue artery. He's got all that stuff in his toolbox.
And I don't think
Yeah.
1,000 years ago scripts really existed. Maybe so.
Interesting.
So
Yeah, I don't know about that. I'd have to look at. I don't know. I can't
yeah,
remember. Yeah,
it's just perceived that way,
yeah.
So,
But we'll see.
because he doesn't have like Almighty or anything like that. So it's like
Also, I
yeah.
mean, like from Yamamoto's perspective, I imagine him being very depressed for a while, but then
Mhm.
kind of like psyching himself up when they attack the second time, and they're like, Yamamoto basically being like, "Screw this. I don't, I'm
Mhm.
Captain Commander. I'm Yamamoto. I'm the
I'm
strongest Shinigami that ever lived.
him.
I'm gonna wreck their day." You know what I mean? Like that kind of like psyching
And wreck
himself
the
up
Soul
for it. Yeah.
Society along with it, just
Yeah.
for the lols.
Yeah, seriously. I'm going to finish this. So now we cut back to Uryu's other scene where, this is where the leaked Reich is mentioned, not at the beginning
Yes.
yet. This is where it's mentioned here. So it did have a different name 1,000 years ago or 2,000 years
Mhm.
ago. No, 1,000 years ago and then 200 years ago.
Yeah.
And so that, the way I'm taking this to mean is that the Quincy's kind of made themselves known to that's when they first got on the Shinigami's radar 1,000 years ago with their attacks. And then
Mhm.
that was when Yamamoto fought Yuha and wiped a lot of them out. and then, you know, stragglers still survived for the next 800 years, and then 200 years ago is when they initiated the, you know, Quincy extermination operation, where we just have to finish off the remaining members, because if we leave any alive, that's going to disrupt the balance of souls and all that jazz. And that's what eventually led to, like, Uryu's family, like Soken, being, you know, captured and killed and stuff. Also,
it is pain. Oh, sorry, go
oh
on.
no, I was just gonna say, bring up a thing about the Quincy's age, because the thing is, we know that, like, Basby and Hashwalth are like over 1,000 years old, or at least they were born 1,000 years ago. If you want to say, like, you know, they were like the shadow dimension, you don't age or something like that. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah, there probably was like dormancy for like quite a while. It is interesting. I think one of the biggest questions about Bleach in general is not only the age thing, but also the age of the story, and where do things begin and where do they end? And it's like, okay, well, what the anime has done is kind of reiterate a bit of a timeline, you know, such as Chodoro and Yamaji meeting 2,000 years ago, and then you had a war that happened 1,000 years ago, and then the annihilation 200 years ago. So at least it's painting somewhat of a picture. I don't know if you passed the screenshot yet of, and no, have we got to the javelin where he throws the Quincy javelin yet?
Oh no, but that's coming up next.
Okay.
Yeah, it was just
it's interesting to note, because I think you're about to get to that.
Yeah.
A lot of people missed it. And that was Chojuro also standing on top of that mountain of Quincy bodies.
Oh,
as well.
okay.
And then yeah, you'll probably see it in a minute, and you.
Well, actually,
see...
I didn't take the shot of the Quincy bodies, because I was
did
like,
you not?
no, because in the second episode there was all those dead hollows in Huecamundo, and I think that's what got it age restricted. So I'm like, all right, I'll play by the rules.
Anyone that is watching this,
Yeah.
you know, you're more than welcome to go back and see that. But you see a young Chodoro at the top of the bodies of the Quincy's. Then you watch throwing the throwing the javelin, and then you see Yamamoto in the fire cloak. And I think that, you know, it goes to also reiterate a lot more into how strong Chodoro was, and that he was involved in the war 1,000 years ago. And then the stragglers, as you said, for 200 years. You know, I would like to think that people like Soken were probably on the good side of the Quincy's and probably did want to negotiate, which I think the Quincy's... It's weird, because the timeline says that there was a war 1,000 years ago, but then there was also an annihilation 200 years ago. So it's like, what kind of agreement did they come up to? You know, for any of the stragglers or any of the... They were approached, and I think this was said in episode 4, that they were approached to come up with an agreement, and they kept ignoring the Soul Societies. So that's when the Soul Society were like, okay, we're just gonna annihilate them. So I can understand Uryu's conflictions here. And I wonder what Soken's is. You know, he wrote the journal, so I wonder what his whole point of view was on this, and
like
where
a lot
he
of it,
fitted into this story.
a lot of it's just like history on the Quincy's, but like there also has to be his own personal take on it as well. I feel has to be written in that book that Uryu's gonna bring up.
Yeah, he definitely needs to see two sides of the story for sure.
But I didn't even notice that whole thing with Chojuro on the pile of bodies. Like, that was crazy.
I didn't notice it until like my 10th rewatch. I'm not
wow,
gonna
my
lie, man. I
goodness.
was like, oh.
So,
Chojuro.
yeah, we actually, this is where we see the shot of Yuha's sword, and also the Blute Vina, and so he's using that. And so that's how he's not bursting into flames right now. Yamamoto, I mean, this is where, yeah, he's getting kind of cocky, because he even says, you know, oh, you can run away if you want, except I will quickly catch up and kill you. But you can run away if you want. You know?
It's so cool, though. Yeah. But it's so cool.
And so, because he doesn't have his sword anymore, he resorts to using his arrows, his javelins. Yep. He throws it at Yamamoto. It does nothing. And to which Yamamoto just charges at him. And this is a shot I was really excited for, with Yuha using the Quincy spell. Because this is a spell that we don't really see it utilized. Quincy's do have magic. We see Uryu using them with like the Ginto tubes and everything, like the Sprenger and shit like that. But here it's like completely different, where Yuha, like his like Roman numerals come out of his hands, like little ribbons, and then
music.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like,
some people don't like it. I love it, but yeah.
Oh, I love that. That's the theme for like the Quincy's, basically. I think it fits perfect.
Great.
And then so he uses Krinkenlied, Sankt Zwinger. I can't pronounce it. It's German.
That so bad.
Yeah, of course I did. And that's why everybody's like, Tekking, I can help you with German. And I'm like, Okay.
It's not as fun.
It's not as fun, you know? So, it's a Quincy spell of defense and offense, as Yuha puts
Yes.
it. Anybody that steps within, like, this perimeter of, like, these, like, giant pillars and, like, crosses summoned will just immediately be incinerated by holy light, which sounds pretty cool. Definitely, it gives us, some lore that there's levels to Quincy spells, and, like, you know, Yuha's a master, so he can basically do any of them. I think this is the only time he ever actually uses a spell, but, you know. Yamamoto doesn't really care, though.
That was a jab there.
Yeah. Oh, that was a jab there, definitely. Yeah. But we'll see. Maybe later on in the anime he will
Just
use
like
this
how
again.
Yamamoto didn't use a single Kido in that fight, but hey, we'll carry on.
Yamamoto charges. He says, like, you know, I told you you can't harm me. I'm invincible, pretty much. He stabs his sword into the ground. He activates Zanka no Tachi south. And the way that they did this, okay, first of all, the theme, every sound effect, every theme just stops. It's silence. And then you just hear crackling and the chattering of bones.
It's me when I get up in the morning.
And that's it. Yeah, I'm getting there too. I'm almost 30, man. But that's, you know, that's such a cool way to do it, because they could have easily had like a really badass like theme queue up or something, like Invasion could have queued up, or like Treachery or something.
You zoom out the eye socket.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
And it's like, ugh.
But instead
like,
they do this.
Yeah. It was so horrifying, and that's the thing that I wanted with like the Asnot and Byakuya fight. I said I don't care if there's like high animation scenes, as long as they like really nail down on the horror aspect, I'll be completely happy with it. And just like with this episode, the horror aspect of this, the music, it just felt like a horror movie.
Yeah,
and
it does.
I don't get that feeling very much from anime in general. Even when I go out my way to watch horror anime, they don't really hit that mark. And maybe it's because of the music and sound design more so. But you know, even the CG, it didn't. It fit.
Oh god, it fits in the way of like I was a big fan of I was a big fan of a show called Courage the Cowardly Dog growing up.
Damn, bro.
Yeah, and one of the things I didn't know they had that in England. But one of the things that they did in that show that was
Cartoon Network in England.
You had Cartoon Network in England?
Yeah, dude.
Wow, blowing my mind. But no, so one of the things they did in that show that was so good is they would always play around with different kinds of animation styles. So like the show was 2D, but sometimes they would throw like a CG like model in there or claymation. It would scare the crap out of you because it would be so jarring. I had
it's unrealistic, you know, it takes you out of the
I kind of felt it like with that. Like if they ever showed this episode in a theater in like IMAX 3D, this scene would be so
to see this episode in
terrifying
theater,
with these skeletons, these CG
the
red
cracking in like the surround sound and all that. Oh my god.
Yeah, like the skeletons like moving around, like popping in your ears, like just like
that would be beautiful.
You know, and there is a soundtrack, there is music in the background, but like the initial appearance of these things is absolutely horrifying.
It's like a violin kind of screechy sound, and it's just so eerie.
Oh, all right, I'm gonna try to pronounce this. Kakajuman Kushi Dai Sojin.
Hey,
I think that was kind of close. I know Japanese better than I know German. Yeah,
that's pretty good, man.
So
well done.
This also the terrain changes, like not even just like the terrain changes, but like the color palettes and the hues of everything changes. He literally summons hell. Yeah.
Which is ironic.
On the ground, everything's purple, but you see like magma and like it's now like all like debris, and the skeletons are rising up out of like hell and climbing up on the debris, and they're all burnt and charred. Yuha's there like, what is this? And Yamamoto explains what south is. He's like, I literally awaken those I have slain by heating their ashes with my blade, and they come and fight for me.
So does that mean he keeps like a remnant of ash from the person that he kills?
I don't know. I always imagined it was like in Ryujin Jaka's like inner world. It's just populated by a bunch of skeletons that are all the people he's killed.
I would imagine that really messes with the whole reincarnation aspect of Bleach.
Oh, definitely.
I was like, well, maybe they're in hell.
Yeah, that could be a thing
like,
too.
It's like what?
No, no, it doesn't really make much sense. I think it's more of like a Zanpakuto ability. Like it's kind of like this is way later on, and this is spoilers, but
Hmm.
we've spoiled a lot already, so who cares? Later on, when we get
Forget
to
about it.
Ichibei,
Yeah.
Ichibei has an ability which is like the lost reincarnation temple or something, where he literally like
Mm.
removes you from the reincarnation cycle. And he
Hmm.
attempts to use that on Yuha. So I imagine there is ways, and the Quincy's exterminate hollows without sending them
Mm.
anywhere. So there are ways that I guess
The
Yamamoto's
percentage is probably so small it doesn't really affect any
no.
kind of balance, maybe.
Although,
But
isn't like the literal translation of this ability like 100 trillions of like it's like
yeah,
it's an
the,
insane number, but I don't think
y-
it's meant like literally.
yeah, I think it displayed itself more as they more like grouped together on Yuha. But like when I first initially saw it, I was like, oh, that's not as many skeletons as I thought there would
Yeah,
be.
yeah.
But as it went along, I was like, okay, now it's looking a bit
Yeah,
more
the thing is
realistic.
also like these skeletons don't look that strong and they don't move that fast, but the fact is there's just a crapload of them. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like he just literally
density over
summoned
strength. Yeah.
like I don't know, let's lowball it and say 10,000
Mm.
skeletons, probably more than that, but like,
Do,
you know,
do you think the intention was to make them strong or to make them just completely
the
mentally
psychological
disrupt?
aspect.
Yeah, the
Yeah, yeah,
psychological.
I
Yeah.
thought it was more about the psychological aspect because I
Mm.
feel like at this point Yamamoto did not need to go all the way to south and north. He could have easily just continued the fight in east and west and managed to
Hmm.
win. But he's like,
Exactly.
no,
Yeah.
I'm not just going to kill you. I'm going to make you see the images of your own subordinates. And this is this great line where Yuha is covered in the skeletons. And
Hmm.
Yamamoto's like, your mouth works well, but your eyes don't work at all. And then
Which makes me feel like he's the only one that can see the actual figures of these skeletons.
yeah,
Because like when the camera looks away from Yuha, we just see him as normal,
yes,
right? So it's like,
exactly.
yeah. Mm.
So Yuha looks down at one of them, and he's like, kind of reminds him of somebody.
Lifeless.
So you see the flesh go back on this skeleton, and this is the corpse of Sidritz, which I
Mm.
believe was basically like his second in command 1,000 years ago.
Hmm.
It was like Hashwolf's job 1,000 years ago. He has an eye
Yeah.
patch, and then there's two others. One is Argola, and the other one is Hubert.
Shout outs to Hubert. Shout outs. The
Hubert,
goat.
we're gonna
You
see
know,
again later
we
on.
will.
Argola, I think we see as well too, but
Yeah,
Hubert
we do.
has relevance later on in Basby and Hashwell's
Hmm.
backstory. And there's even an added scene where Yuha breaks out of the skeletons and is like he's like stumbling toward Yamamoto. The skeletons are like holding him back, like they're all broken and shit, but they can still hold him back. And there's a shot where he's walking through like the path of his fallen comrades. So that's
Yeah.
yeah,
So while we see him as skeletons, he's seeing them as actually like full bodies.
yeah, with their
So that was
uniforms and all
nice.
that on. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was nice to see the different POVs in that
Also
perspective.
interesting because the fact that Yuha is upset by that in a sense. He's like, I can see
It's a
your
big hint.
tears, Yuha. Yeah,
Yeah, it's a
and
big hint.
this is not really Yuha, but given Royd's ability, he has all of Yuha's memories, his personality, and everything.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
this
The
this
fact
would
that
be
like
how Yuha responds, from what we understand. Yeah,
yeah, and I don't know if you were going to get to it, but Yamamoto then does say it seems that you do have some humanity,
yeah.
and that would have been the first like red flag of like that ain't Yuha, mate.
Wait a
That's not
second.
him.
Yeah. So, and yeah, it's almost like I think Yamamoto like subconsciously knows something is up. Like this is too easy kind of a thing. But he just kind of ignores that and is just like, no, I'm just gonna finish him off. I'm gonna push any doubt I have aside, and I'm just going to kill him.
I think it's not out of character though,
No.
and the reason why I say that is because he's been extremely arrogant and ignorant as well. The fact that he ran that, or he may heal his arm. He didn't really do well against Wonderwise because of his arrogance. He got outplayed by Aizen with the Kido. He's lost his touch. He's become very reliant on his. I would say the captains around him that he's honed, and he's just gotten old and bitter, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
Uh,
Age
he's
changes you, man.
incredibly
Yeah.
yeah, he's incredibly strong, but he's been out of his. Yeah, I don't know how old he was like 1,000 years ago or 2,000 years ago,
Yeah, I mean,
but I
like,
am.
there was the line he said against Aizen at Fake Karakura, like, there hasn't been a Shinigami born stronger than me in, like, the last
Yeah,
thousand
he's probably
years or
gotten
something.
bored,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
And just like Kenpachi, where it's like he's had no one strong to fight, you're naturally going to limit yourself And maybe in Yama's case, it was probably mentally. He limited himself mentally to I couldn't tell you, but
Yeah, I mean,
it's
like,
just
even when the
perspective,
fight
I
with
guess.
Aizen, I mean, like, he fought against Aizen, sure, but, he wasn't going Bonkai or anything like that. Like, this is him trying to, like, oh, I'm still super powerful, and I think just, you know, like,
And
overlooking some
understandably
serious
so,
issues.
to be honest.
Well, at any rate, at this point, he decides, like, this is it, I'm ending it, I've made him suffer enough, I've seen him, I've
Mhm.
summoned up all of the corpses of his fallen comrades, and he's like, "Oh,
Mhm.
that is nothing though compared to the what you put us
Mhm.
through."
Yeah.
And so he activates Zanko no Tachi North Tenchi Kaijin, and we see like just the kanji appearing on the screen. I love this shot.
Yeah, I
And
love that
then
too.
he just swings the blade. It looks way cooler. In the manga, it's the kanji and then him like cutting through the kanji.
Yeah.
Here, it's the kanji, and then you just see this awesome animated scene with him swinging the blade through. And I can't show it because it's way
Yeah.
more gruesome here. But we just see like basically a bomb going off in front of Yuha, and this cape
What do
flings
you think
back.
it is?
Huh?
What do you think the attack is? Like, what's your theory
So
on it?
like honestly, I gotta be honest. I feel like a little bit underwhelmed after he uses it because
Hmm.
this I feel like is the strongest singular move of Zanka no Tachi. Like,
Hmm.
it's just he takes one giant sword swing, and I feel like everything in that sword swing should just be incinerated, should be gone. No
Hmm.
explosion, no rubble, no dust, just blipped out of existence from the sheer power, like atomized on the spot. And all it does to Yuha is it cuts him in half. It takes a huge chunk out of his, like, everything
Hmm.
from, like, his chest down to like his stomach is just gone. We see his spine and blood. I can't show it, but we see that in the anime. And
We love
that's
to see it though. We love to see
obviously
it.
an oh, it was gory as hell to see it. I loved
Yeah.
it though. Um, it was certainly an attack that would kill a normal person, but I was
Hmm.
just expecting like his whole body to be just incinerated. So, but that's
Hmm.
just my headcanon. That has nothing to do with anything. Yamamoto sees this. He's on the ground. He disengages his Bankai. It immediately starts to rain for some reason, which, all right, I guess
Yeah,
he.
yeah, yeah. Because all the water that he evaporated could
Yeah,
finally like actually drop, like the
I
atmosphere
feel like though
change.
with that intense heat that he was putting out, even like the evaporate, like the clouds should have been insane. It should be like a desert right now, but whatever. It's Bleach and it's rain, and Kubo loves rain in his Bleach, so we have to have that.
Yeah, I don't think we're gonna go into the intricacies of the water cycle.
Yeah. We're gonna go interesting. The
Yeah.
water cycle in the Seirete.
Yeah.
So it begins to rain.
Banger
It's
video.
so cool though, because Yamamoto disengages it, so it's just the steam coming off of his body after the
Mm,
rain comes down, and then we get the. It's not in the center of the episode; it's near the end at this point, but we get
yeah,
the end the eye catches there. We get the Soul
yeah.
Reaper and Quincy, and then we get Zanko no Tachi as the Bankai. Which, by the way, I had a theory revolving around these eye catches in the center of the episodes.
Okay.
I have a feeling like these are supposed to be the Daten that the Quincy's have, like they have access to, like they can
Oh,
read.
that could be a
Not,
shout, to be
not
honest. Yeah,
exactly, but like,
yeah.
because like Yuha, I guess, provided the data for everything he knew, and all of these cards are like, this is all that you need to know about Shinigami and Bankai and the
Hmm.
Soul Society. Maybe they could be like the Daten in some way. I don't know.
It's a shame because obviously these don't translate them. So,
Yeah, that was something
yeah,
I'm a little bit, a little annoyed by that. But hey,
yeah,
the translators, they have enough stuff going on, I guess, right now. But
yeah.
it would be
But
cool to see a
yeah,
translation
yeah.
version of this.
Hopefully we see, once the core ends, we'll see how
Yeah,
everything kind of like lines up. So,
yeah.
yeah.
So,
No, that's a good shout. That's a good
oh,
shout.
great. And so now we cut and we see Yuha just sitting on the ground, and he's just like raising up a hand, and he's like, "Please forgive me,
Huh?
Yuha Bach."
Nani?
And yeah, and then honestly, Yamamoto has a "Nani" moment, and he's like, "Wait a second, who are you apologizing to?" And we
Man, just say
see
Soul King. Like,
yeah,
oh.
he turns around. Oh, my Soul King. Turns around, and as he turns around to see Royd, who has transformed back into his self, we
Hmm.
see, like, the eruption behind him and the First Division just going up in blue fire. And then Yuha, just the real Yuha, appears behind Yamamoto. And
Wait,
it's like,
himself or yourself?
yourself. Aha! So
Hey.
we find out what there were shenanigans about in this fight. And one such shenanigan is we have Sternritter Y, the yourself, Royd Lloyd, who is Lloyd's brother. That's something, by the way, in the manga at this point they explain, like they were mixed up at birth, and what
Yet
their
they
individual
didn't.
powers are, and they cut that out of the episode.
Yeah. Do
Which
you do you think they'll add that in later? I wouldn't know
maybe they just
where.
didn't want to, because the thing is, this episode goes from chapter 506 to 510. And
Right.
I think in chapter 510, which is where we're getting into right now in the last chapter they're covering, it opens with that flashback with Royd and Lloyd. So I feel like they are gonna, that would kind of kill the momentum of the scene if it's like all of a sudden we cut to a flashback with these two characters that we don't really know
Mhm.
anything about, and then like I feel like doing it this way is better. Maybe they will reveal it in the next episode though.
Yeah, it's really difficult because there's times where I'm like, oh, they've like, let's just say Chojiro's death, for example, and like Byakuya is seen at the funeral. There's times like that where I'm like, oh, they skipped this out.
Yeah.
You know, how are they gonna fit it in? It's like it seems a bit
I
irrelevant. But I've been honestly really surprised how they've been able to change something and still
they
fit in that same
Yeah,
explanation.
and they don't need
And
to go through the whole flashback with Royd and Lloyd. I mean, the whole flashback. It was like 2
yeah, I
pages,
mean,
but you know what I
it's
mean.
as you said, right? They could do one of those screen title cards, right, in the
Yeah,
middle of the episodes, and they could explain it through that,
yeah,
you know,
easy,
and
done.
you'd still give the same kind of explanation that you got in the manga. So yeah, and you never know. We could actually get a flashback of how he actually, got all the sturmers like in the second core or the third core, whenever they do it. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
maybe there's a method to the madness. So I'm not going to
Absolutely.
jump the gun, but you
it,
know,
it is something to bring up.
yeah,
And the main
yeah,
important thing that people need to take away from it is so Lloyd's ability of the yourself. They're both able to mimic other people's appearance. That's a given
hmm
with their power.
yes,
Lloyd's ability mimics powers and skill, and Royd's
yep,
ability mimics memories and mind.
yes.
Which once again, all of the things that we saw him doing in terms of power, that was on him. That wasn't like him mimicking Yuha's
Yeah,
abilities or anything. Yeah.
if you notice, those are very specific Quincy-based abilities.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't even like Yuha's abilities, right?
No.
These are just base Quincy
Yeah,
stuff
base
that
Quincy
any
stuff.
Quincy can do. So
Any Quincy stuff. It wasn't
which
like he could
which
copy
again
Yuha's like script or anything like that.
which again is like, oh well, maybe that's why Yamamoto didn't really notice anything because maybe 1,000 years ago, maybe that's all Yuha could actually do was just basic Quincy abilities,
Yeah,
right?
it
And it
was a
was just a
thousand
bit
years ago, and
stronger
now look where
than
we're
the
at
rest of
right
them.
now with his crazy
Exactly.
powers. We're
I
gonna
mean,
get more into that later on.
I mean, they've talking words. They've talked a lot about how the Quincy's have made new technology,
Yeah,
such as the Bankai stealing or plundering or whatever word they want to use.
plunder in the
So
Bankais,
yeah,
matey.
uh, yeah, basically. And we know, well, we don't know in the anime yet, but me and you know about like how Yuha gets his powers and
Yes.
whatnot. So, there's a lot for Yuha to prep in terms of being in the Shadow Realm, in terms of how he can get stronger and how he can beat Yamamoto. So it would make sense that he's learned a lot of new abilities along the way in
Hmm.
comparison to 1,000 years ago. So, I kind of understand so many different perspectives of Yamamoto, and I think that from a storytelling perspective, people are angry that Yamamoto got beat by a clone, but the fact that it can be perceived in so many ways is to me good writing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think of it that way too. It's just like
Mm.
we've covered it quite a bit at this point, but just like Yamamoto's mental state going into it, that was definitely a factor. Royd's ability of just like being able to mimic the personality of Yuha, that was also another one. Um, so yeah, I mean, like I'm not upset that Yamamoto, like, because he didn't really get beaten by a clone. You know what I mean? Like he was the one that kind of like completely
Same
dominated
for
Royd.
Kenpachi though.
And yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, Kenpachi. I'm sorry. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm
Yeah.
sorry, Kenpachi. Yeah, that. I mean, Kenpachi just got full of himself there. I guess. There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um.
So, don't sleep on the Stone Ritters just because he beat three at
Yeah.
one point doesn't mean you should sleep on all the Stone
No.
Ritters at all. Like they
Absolutely
are
not.
strong and that's a good example of how strong that these guys are and like saying because you can have an Aizen, for example, in Fate Karakura Town, and in comparison the Arankars look weak in
Yeah.
comparison, right? So if they were to make an invasion, it'd be like whatever, the captains can deal with it, it's easy work. But you're actually giving these characters, these Stone Ritters, like they can hold their own. Like they can probably take 2 to 3 captains on their own if they so wished, and they have.
Mm-hmm.
You're right.
Absolutely.
But yeah, so it's not only the big bad guy you've got to stress about, it's the rest of the army.
Yeah.
They are characters that
It's an organized army that all has like really unique abilities that they're not used to. So, and some of the scripts aren't going to be that great. You know what I mean? Like the question
Mhm.
dude that, Kenpachi just ripped his damn throat out. And
Yeah,
it's
of
just
course,
like,
yeah.
there you go, done, easy. But they're
Yeah.
not all going to be that simple and like straightforward.
And you want a villain that is smart and tactical
Yeah.
after being in hiding for ages. It's like, what did you expect?
Yeah.
Him just to rock up and be like,
Yeah,
let's finish
literally,
unfinished business,
he's
and then
had
just get
like
bodied again. Like,
what is it, like 90 years to get back his intelligence. So he's had like,
yeah,
so
he's
long to
been
figure
thinking.
out. He's had 90 years to figure out a plan here, and so this
Yeah,
is what he came up with, and I think it worked pretty well. So
absolutely.
Royd is there on the ground. He's about to die, and he's just like, "Oh, thank you so much for giving me praise." And then Yuha like just incinerates him. We see his foot just lie right next to Yuha. He blows him
He
up.
didn't do a
Yeah,
clean job, did he?
did not do a clean job there, but he blew him up. It's whatever. Um, Yamamoto asks the $1 million question, like, "What have you been up to until now, Yuha?" And he's like, "I met with Sosuke Aizen." And Yamamoto's like, "What?" And then we cut to the Central Underground Prison. So
Which was amazing.
it was amazing. In the manga, we get none of this conversation. Literally, all we get is Yuha
Two
saying he met with
panels.
Aizen, and we see a flashback
Not
of
two
Aizen.
panels.
We don't see them actually meeting.
It was
Uh,
two dialogue bubbles in like the next chapter, not
yeah.
next episode, but it would
Oh,
have been the
yeah, yeah,
next
yeah.
chapter.
That's it.
So.
Yeah, and that's all
Mm.
it was case. So, but now we actually see it. We see the underground prison. We see Aizen pinned to a giant pillar with the rods going through him and everything. The black bindings that are on him that limit his
Mhm.
Ryatsu to him. They don't turn it off. They just keep it close to him. That's important to mention.
Which I actually want to talk about. Like I have like a really big theory that I want to like kind
Oh,
of
sure.
address with you.
Go ahead.
So in the manga, we later on we see that Aizen is full of the black like restraints, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah.
he's completely covered head to toe. Now in this iteration, he has his
You
left eye
noticed
and
it
his
too.
mouth.
You noticed it too.
Right.
Yep. Yep.
So I went back and into the manga and I was like, what's kicking off here? Right? Why is this happening? Shun's, him goes to see Aizen and we notice that his left eye and mouth are open, right? Even though we just saw on the color page that they were closed. And it's very apparent to me, and I didn't pick up on it when I first read it like 10 years ago,
Hmm.
but it's very apparent to me that that at a certain distance that you got to Aizen was the fact that you was under his illusion, and it was perceived that those restraints were off, even though that they're not.
Yeah. That's the best way I
And
can put it because, like, they even say that when he was about to be sentenced by the Central 46,
mhm,
he was mouthing off to them because, of course, he was. He's Aizen. And
Aizen, yeah.
there's like, we don't have to take this, restrain his mouth and restrain his eye. And they completely cover him up. And we see it in the cover page. He's completely covered. They
So
cover up
this
his
is
arms,
good.
his eye, and his mouth. He can't.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so it's great foreshadowing,
it
like
is.
from the animated perspective, because going back, you only saw the flashbacks of Yuha,
Hmm.
in that fight that we just witnessed in Central 46. We never see him currently where he is at the moment, so that's all new content in regards to that, and I loved it,
But
like
it
the
makes sense. I mean,
foreshadowing. Yeah.
he still Aizen still has the Hogyoku. Kyoka Suigetsu is still fused with him. They can't do anything
Mhm.
about that. All they can do is bind him with that cloth and then throw him in prison in the
It
lowest
was
level.
also
Yeah,
interesting where he said like I can't kill. Well, he didn't say he can't kill him. He says it
it'll
would
take
take
a
me a
long
long
time to
time
kill
to
you.
kill you. So it was like,
Which I don't know. I mean, like if anybody could figure it out, Yuha might be able to figure out a way to do it.
hmm,
But that's still like So
interesting enough.
anyway, this is a whole new dialogue that was written by
Yeah.
Kubo for this scene. So Yuha shows up and is like, Sosuke Aizen. And Aizen immediately knows Yuha's name. He knows who he is. And he
Should.
says, I have many ways of finding out your name. Aizen's super intelligent. He probably read all about the Quincy's and everything about
Hmm.
them as well. So he knows about the Vandenreich. He knows about Yuha. He knows about the Quincy King. He knows about all that
Hmm.
shit. And he's like, I won't ask why you're here. I can sense the swirling Ryatsu from up above. There's a massive war going on, clearly. I can tell that. And he mentions, Yuha mentions that, you are one of the special threats, the Sosuke Aizen, and I want you to come under my command. And he is the only member of the war powers, maybe Ichigo later on, but he's the only one of the war powers that he actually tries to recruit to his side,
Hmm. Yeah.
of like,
Understandably so.
yeah, understandably so, because he even says, like, we have very similar
Pass.
goals. Aizen says, the Quincy King is welcoming me into the Vandenreich. It's like, we have the same goal of destroying the Soul Society, don't we not? And Aizen just looks right at him and he's like, I refuse.
Yep.
Which is
Not
crazy to
interested.
think that, because, Isaac could just get out of here right now, you know what I mean? But
Yeah, of
I think
course
it's
he could,
because
yeah.
he sees the long game here of, like, if I teamed up with him, one of us is going to die eventually. Like, we're going to end up killing one or the other, you know what I mean?
Two leaders can't lead.
No.
No. So he was very smart in saying, "No, I'm good.
I'm good. And he
I'm
even
not
brings
I'm not a follower. I'm a leader."
Yeah, and he also
Mhm.
brings up, he's like, I find it kind of pathetic that a Quincy is following
Mhm.
in the footsteps of a Soul Reaper. Kind of a jab at Yuha there, like, you're going to turn out exactly like the Soul Reapers did, basically.
Yeah.
Kind of, you're doing the exact same thing. You know what I mean?
Hypocrite.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you just said everything that needed said. I think the scene in general. I mean, people say there's parallels to like Evangelion in terms of like the lighting.
Hmm.
I just thought it was beautiful because one, everybody loves Aizen, and two, again, reinstating the strength of Yuha, showing him that he isn't a guy to be messed with, right? And I think that's what the first part of Bleach really was supposed to, showcase was this is a
Absolutely.
war. It's not some kiddie play
No.
park type stuff. this is pretty serious.
And
This is
Yuha,
anything
like, he doesn't sit around and grovel. I mean, it's just like,
no.
will you join me? I refuse. All right, we're done here.
Right, in a
Yeah.
bit then.
Okay, and
Worth a shot.
yeah, worth a shot. You were the one person I thought that might, And so as he's turning away, I feel like Aizen at this point was like, "Well, wait, hold on a second. Don't like
Going already.
I haven't had anybody to talk to for the last like year and a half. So
Yeah, it's been lonely.
it's been lonely. You came here because you saw my power as a threat." And Yuha says, "Yeah, because you're fused with the Hokyoku, but it would take too long to kill you, and it is
Restrain
best."
you as well.
Yeah, it's best or to restrain you. And Aizen's like, it is best to minimize the path. Yeah, it is best to minimize my. Okay, I will get through this sentence. Okay, it is best to minimize the time we spend sharing the same path. Which I think, as you said, and as I said earlier, it's like basically like the two of us working together. It's just a recipe for disaster. It's
Exactly.
not. Yeah, it's not going to work out.
It's so crazy that Aizen he has even thought about this. I mean, he's
Yeah,
in the Mukin. He's got a lot to think
he's
about.
got a lot of time down there, man. Yeah.
But the fact that he was probably thinking about it the moment the invasion kicked off. To be honest with you.
Yeah, the
But
first, maybe like the
yeah.
first invasion, he
Yeah.
sensed what's going on, and he's like, oh, it's
Mm.
probably the Quincy's. Ooh, I wonder if Yuha's gonna show up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Got all giddy and excited for it.
Sad for Aizen. He only spent his first like I think it's like 18, 19 months he's been down there. He still has like another 19,998 years left or something like that.
Time goes by when you're having fun.
Yeah, time goes
Yeah.
by when you're having fun. But anyway, we cut back to the battlefield, to the last scene of the episode where Yuha at this point was like, oh, and there was also a line I missed earlier when he was fighting against Royd. Yamamoto said, "Oh, you can't steal my Bankai because you don't know about the limits of it because I've never showed you everything I could do." And right here, Yamamoto tries to go back into his Bankai again. Yuha immediately seals it, and well, not seals it, but steals it.
Yeah.
Plunders the Bankai.
Plunders.
And steals it, and he says, well, it's not that we couldn't have stolen it, it's just that I'm the only one that can handle the power of it, so I told Roy to hold off. So how do you feel about that? Do you feel like Yamamoto was just wrong then? Like, that wasn't a factor? In the manga, they go into even further detail with it, and Yamamoto clarifies that's the reason you can't steal mine, because you don't know the limit of it. That's also the reason you can't steal Ichigo's, because his has not reached its level yet. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think maybe it was a deductible, logical explanation for it, but it's more the fact of like Quincy's. We all know how they can manipulate Reishi, and the fact that Yuha is, I guess, on the level of Yamamoto. Again, it was his ignorance, but
Yep.
in Yamamoto's defense, no one was stronger than him, so no one should be able to obtain that amount of ability
That's
without
fair
some
logic
sort-
to understand.
Yeah,
Like, I don't
it
think
is,
any
yeah.
random Stern Ritter, like, I don't think like the Roar guy could have stolen
Mhm.
Jerome Guy's bat steals Yamamoto's Bankai. Like, I don't think he would have been able to do that. And there's another reason why Ichigo's can't be stolen.
Mhm.
That's a whole other.
It is interesting how Soul Society has all this technology though, and not once has anyone clocked on that he had some sort of Quincy ability in him.
Yeah,
to
that's
some
an
degree.
interesting thing to itself, but you know.
So for Yamamoto to say, oh well, that's why you haven't, because the same could be said. This is where the manga kind of gets a bit iffy for me.
Mm.
Is that Toshiro's isn't
Yeah,
completed
no,
either.
yeah, same
So,
example. Yeah. I think it's just
yeah,
them not knowing how the hell the Quincy's are doing this, and so they're just
copium.
trying to figure out. It's the same thing like when Chojuro was his Bankai was taken. They just assumed it was a seal and they just
Yeah.
rolled with it because it's like, oh, it has to be a seal. It's like, oh no, they're stealing it. Like, oh, that's a whole other bag of
Of course.
hammers. Then that's
But-
not
but-
good. You know.
I give him the pass
Yeah.
on a certain degree because it's like this is happening so quick that information
Yeah.
is just so scarce and you just take whatever you can get.
I
and
guess
make
you take whatever you can
conclusions.
get. I would be a little bit
Exactly.
more like the fact that they just like, oh, it's a seal, and they immediately latched on to that without like even pondering the other possibilities. It's like, yeah, well, I guess they only had like a day or two, and they had Chojiro's funeral and
Exactly.
everything like that. They had other shit worrying about.
And then all the other Soripers that died as well because of Driscoll as well.
Yep.
During
So-
that first, so it's like what's kicking off,
So I blame Chojiro personally because he was just like, they can Bankai.
They can what?
And it was like, what? What can they do?
Explain.
Say the word. Steal Bankai. All right, good. Thank you. We needed that. All right. Well, he's dead
Man's
now.
lungs
Sorry.
is like filling full of blood and just
Sorry,
couldn't get one
Chojiro.
word out.
Sorry.
So selfish.
Sorry, Sasakibe. Anyway, Yamamoto gets his Bankai stolen, and Yuha even adds insult to injury by saying, I can now use this power to awaken the corpses of your own subordinates and have them kill you. But Yuha's a nice guy, so he's not going to do that.
Oh.
Like, ever. Like, the Yamamoto's Bankai never comes up again after this.
We don't know. We don't know. Copium. New anime.
Yep,
new
that's
content.
fair. Nope, that's fair. I'm just saying in
Copium.
the manga, it never gets referenced again after this. But anyway,
Please.
yes, please, for the love of God. So I
Just
really
a smidgen.
something else, by the way, that doesn't ever come up again, and I love that the ability Yuha uses here. Yamamoto charges at him. He doesn't have his Bankai. Yuha summons a giant bow in the sky to fire an arrow, not at Yamamoto, but at the foot of Yuha. He picks it up, and he has a giant arrow sword. He never uses this again either, I don't think. This thing is awesome.
Give it time.
Yeah.
Give it time.
He doesn't even
Copium,
draw his actual
please.
sword. He doesn't even draw the real sword. He uses just a reishi sword. And then the
It's
last scene
great.
of the episode is he brings it down. He says, "Farewell, Shigekune Yamamoto." Yamamoto just looks there all sad and somber,
Do you
knowing he's
think-
kind of done.
Do you think like in between those two cuts of like Yamamoto's face and the sword,
Yeah.
do you think that it had already happened before his comprehension and that's why Yamamoto looks like that?
Yeah. I think
Yeah.
that's it. I think that's
That
what
was-
happened there. Like, Yamamoto charges, and this is the real Yuha. He's just too fast, and he's also been
Yeah.
burned out from using the Bankai, and so it's just a quick... That was one thing, and other people, I think, when the chapters came out, like, that's it. Like, that's, like, Yamamoto just charges in, and he just cuts him once, and that's it. That's the end of the battle. It's like, but there's a lot of stuff that goes into this, okay?
Yeah.
So I don't think it's just, like, one-shotted, like, in that respect, okay?
As well as Yuha did say as well that he is extremely exhausted.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
He's not
so-
showing it, but he is. Yeah.
Yeah, he's extreme. Yeah, so that was extremely tactical from Yuha. I had no complaints. 10 years ago, I probably would have had a little bit of a moan and a whine. But as I've read the series 10,000 times, over exaggeration, but it's like I get it, and the anime really displays not only the speed but also the maneuver. And maybe it was that Aizen scene that really kind of added on to his battle intelligence.
Oh, absolutely. And it's like also, like, when was the last time Yamamoto trained with his Bankai? Like, actually went into his Bankai? I mean, just by the
Never
nature of
needed
it, he
to,
can't even train with it. If he went into the Rukongai and used it, like, that would wipe
he'd
out.
destroy it,
Yeah,
yeah.
it would destroy it. He can't train with that. So
At
this is
that
like the
point,
first
you
time he's
have to
used it in
go-
like hundreds of years, probably.
Yeah, I think that's why at that point you've probably got to go to Squad Zero.
Yeah,
maybe.
you have
Or you'd
to.
have to go into maybe the Muken, maybe.
Something. Yeah, there's no
But-
other, because the Muken literally means like infinity or nothingness, so it's implied that maybe it just goes on forever.
Yeah, the Viz translations haven't quite grasped which one they want to choose yet.
Mugen
But yes.
or Muken, because they mean different things.
Yeah, well, and they also said almost infinity, and then they said infinity. It's like in the same volume. It's like which one is it? But
well, it's
yes,
it's almost infinity, James. It's
they
okay.
can't. Well, yeah, almost.
It's infinity, infinity -1. There we go.
Okay, right. That's how we do it, right? Yeah, but no, the kanji does say infinite space or
Yeah.
infinity. So like, I did have to.
I always thought of Muken as like a pocket dimension kind of situation. You know what I mean? Like it's just
Yeah,
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 it
yeah.
just kind of goes on forever. Yeah.
There was that argument as well. Is it a pocket dimension? Yeah.
Yeah, because it's they
The,
have
the anime
technology. They have
sorted out.
technology
Yeah.
too. They can create stuff like
Sure,
that. Yeah, sure.
sure. Yeah.
But
And we have
yeah,
the Valley of Screams and stuff like that. It's very plausible.
Yamamoto
Absolutely.
gets cut down though, and that's the end of the episode. That's where chapter 510 ends.
I love the paintbrush effect.
The paintbrush effect.
And the
I
black
can't
and
show that
white.
because of blood and there's like
Yeah.
he's cut in half. But the poem at the end this time is actually Byakuya, the petal falling never to bloom again. That I'm sure Byakuya will be fine. He'll be okay. And that's the end of it. Next episode, Bleach number 7, Born in the Dark, and the ending scene is the ending painting is Yamamoto with Zanka no Tachi. So there it is. That's the episode. How many stars, James, out of 10?
Truthfully, like no, well, I mean, yeah, bias. 10.
I would say 10
10
too. No, that's fair.
I've been
you know?
extremely critical of this anime. I've been very hesitant on certain things, but
Yeah.
if there's one thing that it did right is that I wanted to see what Bleach would do with a 1-versus-1 fight, and they did it
They
amazingly.
did it masterfully here.
It's a chapter. Well, it's like a 6-chapter fight that honestly we didn't really get much choreography in, as you said.
No,
throughout
it's
this
pretty
video.
much just east, then go to west, then go to south, then
Yeah.
north, and the fight's over.
Cool
you know?
panel, cool panel, but no choreography for the most part. So to see just the absolute passion go into this episode and keeping it on model and keeping it fluid, I'm beyond impressed. And they didn't need to throw in the eyes and stuff, but they did, and 10 out of 10.
That's perfect
No
right there.
issues.
Yeah,
Oh,
the Aizen
yeah.
stuff kind of tied it all together, and we'll see where this goes because Yamamoto's gone, but we're not. It's still the war's still going on, guys. We're still fighting.
You got to keep trucking.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I wanted to thank you so much for coming on to this little podcast experiment thing I'm doing.
It's an honor, mate.
Thank
It
you.
is an honor.
Um,
Always looked up to you.
aw,
So it's
thanks,
always
James.
like it's always nice to speak to you and always come on and have my fans, I guess, harass you. So
No, they weren't harassing. They were just like, hey, have James. I asked, who do you want to have on? And they were like, James. And I'm like, okay, we could do that. And
Hook stuff to the homies.
And so once again, let me know down below. I have a few other people lined up I'm going to message. Yeah, let's see how this went. And hopefully the audio and everything went great. And I hope it wasn't completely nonsensical for the last hour and 23 minutes. But we'll find that out when I start to edit this. Thanks for watching, everybody. Signing out.
Peace.